DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. We got Dr. Dion Fundermerva, who is a toxicologist here at Kansas State University. And we're going to talk about different toxic plants that are out in your pasture, some of the problems they can cause, whether it's putting up hay or overgrazing pastures, ways for your cows from running into those toxic plants.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Folks, this is Dr. Dion Fundermerva, who is the head of the toxicology section here at the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. And Dr. Dion, you see a lot of cases, you see a lot of different things around, and I thought that bringing you on the show to talk to people about toxicology and generally toxic plants out in our pastures, there's quite a few.
Yes, it's actually quite surprising how many poisonous plants there are in Kansas. And we don't necessarily think of Kansas as the world's most diverse place in terms of plant life, but if you start counting the number of species and you use as your definition of what a poisonous plant is, plants that have been reported to have caused poisoning, there are about 140 species of poisonous plants in Kansas.
and they're present all the time.
Yes, that's the other thing that is people sometimes find surprising. You know, these plants are in just about every pasture in Kansas. You'll have a hard time finding a pasture that does not contain any poisonous plants. So the question really becomes, when do they cause problems? Because they obviously don't always cause problems. So understanding those conditions under which the poisonous plants become a risk, that is really the key.
So they're there, and then different environmental conditions either have them more prevalent or help the animals select them, something to that nature, and then we start to see the issues?
Yeah, so there are a few reasons why this is the fact. So one of the big ones is that most poisonous plants are not that attractive to animals to eat them. So especially grazing animals like cattle, they are adapted to live in an environment that has poisonous plants in it. So there are certain compounds that are produced by the plants that the animals can detect, and if they detect that, then they will move on and eat something else. So when we see most of the problems is when they don't have something else to move on to. So, for example, if you have a severely overgrazed area, then the plants that are non-toxic and more attractive to the animals can be consumed to the extent that they have no choice left but to eat whatever is there, which could be the poisonous plants. And then, of course, there are quite a few other factors as well, like drought, for example. It can change the physiology of the plant in such a way that it starts to build up compounds that are going to be toxic. So a good example of that is nitrate. So nitrate is always present in most plants. They use it as a basic building block for making proteins and other molecules in the plant. But under certain conditions like drought, the nitrate can build up, so the concentration in the plant can start to exceed the threshold where it becomes poisonous to cattle.
So, overgrazing, drought, sometimes we have to understand they're always there, and either our own poor management or potentially some of the environmental conditions will get us there. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk more with Dr. Dion van der Merwe about toxicology and the toxic plants that are out there in your pastures.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Laura Bro grew up in Montour, Iowa on a cow-calf, feedlot, and crop farm. She became interested in veterinary medicine first through her work with her family's animals, and then also by working and shadowing in local veterinary clinics. After graduation, Laura hopes to find a job in a mixed animal practice or working exclusively with cattle.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Horn flies are a nuisance and a production loss, so getting rid of the problem is important. What I like about the vet gun is you don't have to go out there weekly to treat them with a topical fly applicant. It has some duration, it lasts. You see the increase in weight gain, it just works. I've used it on our 1,500 cow-calf operation, and it makes me more confident in saying, hey, this product's gonna work on your operation too.
Through the generosity of Dr. Eva Gardner and Dr. Dan Thompson, Kansans now have the opportunity to support the wildfire relief effort by purchasing a signed and numbered print of the original painting, A Walk Through Henry's Dreams, by Dr. Gardner. This gallery quality print is only $200. Order your print today online or call 785-273-5115. Please help support the Kansas Livestock Foundation Wildfire Relief Fund.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Dion van der Merwe, and we are talking about toxicology, plants, pastures, gardens, different things around your farm that you might not have known was toxic, that could be toxic either to your cattle or to yourselves through your cattle. But you know, when we left, you know, and during the break, we talked about some different subjects. But one of the things about people are going to not only have managing the forage that's in the pasture, but then we're going to make hay.
Right.
And so, what are some of the things that people need to be concerned about, or at least have an awareness about when they're putting up hay?
Well, one of the things that, of course, is going to play a role is what are the plants that are being incorporated into the hay. Mm-hmm. So when you make a hay and you store it for a while and then you present it to animals, maybe during the winter time, there is going to be much less of a selective feeding on that material. So if you incorporate poisonous plants in the pasture, even though the animals will typically avoid those plants if it's growing in the pasture, in a fresh state, when the plant is dried out and mixed with other things in the hay, then they are more likely to actually consume that material. And if it is a plant that contains toxins that tend to persist, so a good example of toxins like that would be alkaloids. So the alkaloid-containing plants, if that material gets into a hay, that hay will become poisonous and will stay poisonous for a very long time. So even if you use that the next year, it will still be a risk. Another thing that can be a risk here is the physiological state of the plant when you make the hay. So this is another good example where nitrate is a factor.
Gotcha.
So if you have those conditions, let's say you have a drought condition, mm-hmm. and the plant has accumulated a dangerous level of nitrate. If you cut the plant at that stage and make hay, the nitrate will be preserved in the hay, and the hay will be poisonous, to animals even, many months or even years later. However, if that plant remains in the pasture and growing conditions get better, so the drought gets broken and it starts growing again, then the plant will actually consume the nitrate and it will become safe again.
Gotcha.
So by way of making hay, you actually preserve the toxicity of the material.
And some of the places where you have one cutting of hay or maybe two cuttings of hay, you know, with some of the brome pastures and different things like that, it might behoove you, if you're going through a droughty time period, to wait a little bit longer than normal, just based on the nitrates. Can you test the hay before you put it up then to on nitrate levels?
You certainly can. And if you have those conditions that you expect can lead to nitrate poisoning, like drought conditions, as well as plants that grow in very highly fertilized soil. Mm-hmm. So old fields and things like that, areas where you might have distributed manure, those are all risk factors that will make it more likely. So if you have conditions like that, highly fertilized soil, drought conditions, then you should test before you make hay.
Cool. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got some fun ones to talk about and things that people probably don't think about when they think about toxicology in their cattle. Thanks for watching Doc Talk. More on toxicology after this.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vet Medica, Inc.
I'm Dr. Kip Lukasevich with Production Animal Consultation. Today's BQA Tip of the Day is proper SOPs. At the feed yards today, it is important that we keep a list of SOPs. SOPs stand for Standard Operating Procedures. Those operating procedures can entail anything from abortion procedures, castration procedures, and dehorning. The biggest one is the Cattle Care and Handling Guidelines. I think it's really important to have those SOPs on hand, just so that when people come and they audit your yard or do an assessment, we at least can show that we've had proper training and we have proper material for those yards. The other thing that we keep in our SOPs is our processing and treatment procedures. And so one of the biggest things here is making sure that we have the drugs that we're using, as well as when we do our treatment procedures, that it's listed out in order as far as what the symptom is, the diagnosis is, as well as what the treatment regimen would be. So that is our tip of the day.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
Hey there, folks. I'm Dr. Dan from DocTalk. On behalf of myself and the staff at Drovers, I'd like to invite you to our Cow-Calf Cowboy College in West Des Moines, Iowa on June 20th and 21st. We're going to have speakers such as Mike Apley, Tom Knopfsinger, Chris Reinhardt, and Mr. Dave Nichols from Nichols Angus Farm. For registration, please visit droverscowboycollege.com or call us at 1-877-482-7203. I hope to see you all there.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, thanks for watching Doc Talk, and I'm here with Dr. Dion Fundermerva, and we're talking about toxicology because he's an expert in toxicology and works here as the leader of our toxicology group at the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory located in the College of Veterinary Medicine. And some of the things that you know, the first one that we talked about, you said spring and frost and some of the poison hemlock issues.
Yes, that's one of the interesting things that we run into on occasion here in Kansas. Poison hemlock is a fairly common plant, especially in the center to the eastern parts of the state. So around Manhattan and to the east of Manhattan, it's quite common. But it doesn't cause poisoning every year, even though it is, in some years it just grows everywhere, it seems. It doesn't seem to cause a lot of poisoning. However, when we have an early I should say a late frost in the spring. So
right.
Typically around middle to end of March. That is when the poison hemlock sometimes will be the only green thing that has started growing. So the grass is still brown down, and the only green thing in the pasture will be the poison hemlock. However, they are going to be producing compounds that the cattle find offensive. However, when they get frosted and you get ice crystals that form in the cells, the ice crystals will actually damage the plant cells to the extent that those volatile compounds that cause the aversion in the cattle, those don't stay around in the cells anymore because of the damage to the cells. And then after that frost, for a period of about 2 to 3 weeks, those plants are extremely dangerous because now they are less able to induce aversion in cattle, but they are still the only greenish thing around.
So the cattle, and folks, when we talk about aversion, some plants will get a post-ingestive feedback or a negative post-ingestive feedback that after the cow eats something, they don't feel so good. And that will then train the cow to not continue to eating that plant. And
that's correct.
When you get this frost, it knocks out those compounds that send those signals, so they just eat the heck out of it.
Right, and that's actually a very important principle, the fact that you can have animals essentially get trained on what plants they are safe and which are not. So when you have animals that get transported from one area to another, and especially if they are hungry at the time when they get offloaded, that is when we often see plant poisoning, because then they tend to just eat whatever is there, and they are not trained to know which plants are dangerous.
So if you're shipping cattle or buying cattle from out in the western part of the United States and bringing them east, or something in the southeast and bringing them west, you might want to do something to kind of control or curb that appetite as you turn them out.
That's right. I think at least what you should do is make sure that they have adequate, safe feed readily available at the time of offloading. Don't just send them directly into a strange pasture.
Some hay, and make sure you nitrate test before you make the hay. There's a lot of things going on here. But let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about the white snake root and the U plants. I think those are pretty cool things. Folks, Dr. Dion Fundermerva, and he is a toxicologist here at Kansas State University, and we're glad to have him here on the show. More after these messages.
When looking at the number of farm and ranch operations, the USDA Census of Agriculture says cattle and beef production is the largest single segment of American agriculture. The census also says the average age of the American cattle farmer or rancher is in the late 50s. In order to support the continuous supply of U.S. beef, these producers need to do some business planning to successfully transfer their cattle operations to younger, independent producers.
I'm Joe Mushrush with Mushrush Red Angus, and my ancestors have been in this part of the world. Well, they walked in after the Civil War from Virginia. My dad was the start of Mushrush Red Angus. When we come back from college, we had about 100 cows, was working mainly part-time. My wife Connie and I, once we took over, tried to expand rapidly, making it into a full-time operation. We have told our kids that any of them that wish to return to the ranch, why we would do our level best to make a spot for them. And so far, our oldest son Daniel is now back full-time with us, and some of the others have expressed a desire to return, and so we have dedicated most of what we do into creating a spot and making a viable entity for anybody that wants to come back.
In an effort to get more of our family back on the business, we've started our own meat company. And so when we can take, say, a flat iron or a petite tender, and our local packing house has the knowledge and the ability to turn that into a higher retail cut, we'll sell those retail cuts quicker, and we'll sell them for 3 to 4 times the price of what we would sell them without some of those cuts being available to us.
The beef checkoff allows us to do something that we can't do on our own. We do not have the time or resources or the knowledge to go out and approach consumers on our own. By pooling our resources with other producers, it allows us to reach those consumers that we otherwise would not have any way to reach. And by combining our resources and our voice, why, hopefully we can make a difference.
And I hope one day that my children will be here on the ranch. So we need to be able to be responsive to the demands of future generations that we may not even be aware of, and the checkoff helps our industry do that.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We are having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Dr. Dan here with Dr. Dion Fundermerva, who is a toxicologist at the Kansas State University Diagnostic Lab located at the College of Veterinary Medicine. And we have a couple of fun ones here to talk about that people probably don't recognize, but the yew bush.
Right. So yew is a fairly commonly used garden plant here in Kansas. It's an evergreen. It tends to be quite robust. Nothing wants to eat it because it's very poisonous. But unfortunately, it is one of those plants that is very, very toxic to cattle. But cattle don't have an inherent aversion to it. So if they get hold of it, they will often eat it. So one of the poisonings that we see, unfortunately, quite commonly in Kansas is when people trim the yew bushes or take them out, and then that material gets thrown out in a way that cattle can get access to it. And it really takes a very surprisingly small amount of plant material to kill an adult cow. Just a few twigs is enough to kill a large bovine. So it is very toxic, very potent. A small amount is quite poisonous, and it kills quickly. So
if you got cows and you got evergreen bushes around, make sure that it's not a yew bush, and if it is, don't throw the trimmings over in the pasture with the cows.
For sure. Very dangerous.
And the other one that was, because we wanted to make sure we got to this one, was the white snake root.
All right. So white snake root is a little shrub with tiny white clusters of flowers that grows on it. Towards the middle to the end of the summer, you'll see the white flowers. This time of year, early summer, you'll see just the green leafy material. It's a plant that grows at the edges of forests. So typically you don't see it inside pastures themselves, but if a pasture butts up to a forested area, you tend to see them at those forest edges because it's a plant that's adapted to the intermediate light level. So it can't really stay, live effectively under a deep shade in the forest. And it's too much sun out in the pasture, but when you get that in-between area, that's where they grow. So if you have that condition and dairy cattle get to those plants, they will consume it, and then the milk will become poisonous.
To us?
To us, as well as to calves. So anything that consumes the milk will actually be at risk of getting poisoned.
So beef cows that consume it could give it to their calves.
Exactly.
And cause poisoning.
That is possible, sure.
But you said that there was a famous...
An infamous, I should say.
Infamous case.
Right. So the infamous case of Abraham Lincoln's mother. So this was, of course, back in the early 1800s when people were not familiar with the problem and what it caused, or what it was caused by. So it was known as milk fever at that stage because they knew that this was a problem associated with milk, but they didn't know why. And then later, of course, people figured out that this disease was caused by this compound from the white snake root excreted into the milk. And unfortunately, Abraham Lincoln's mother actually died when he was just a kid. He was about 10 years old when his mother died from this.
Well, we can go on and on. We got to have you back on the show, but thanks a million for being with us today.
Very welcome.
Folks, thanks for watching Doc Talk, and if you want to know more about what we do, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Remember to always work with your local veterinarian. Thanks for watching us today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, and I'll see you down the road. Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. Doc Talk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.